We are live. We are live. We are live. Thank y'all so much for joining us today. We will be getting started at 7 p.m. with today's guest, Mr. Jordan Jackson, entrepreneur extraordinaire himself, Chucktown's very own. I'm very excited about this interview. Go ahead and share this out. Let the world know that we are live with Mr. Jordan Jackson. I want to make sure I get the name right, so I had to look up. Y'all can't see my face, so it's cool. But Mr. Jordan Jackson, please, if you know him, if you love him, if you support him, you want to hear from him, you haven't heard from him in a while. He's actually been out of the scene for a little while, and he's back, and he's ready to talk. And I counted a blessing. I counted an honor that this young man, decided to call us and call, me and say, hey, Rajan, I would love to come on your show and make it my first interview, back on the scene. So I am honored. I feel privileged. I feel like hearing some music. So Jordan Jackson, man, go ahead and share. We are live with Jordan Jackson. My kids are doing some weird stuff on the floor, and I don't know why. I don't know what they're doing, but they're down there and they're doing it, and I'm not gonna let them mess me up. Y'all are funny. We're gonna get started right at 7 o'clock. Y'all know me. I'm very punctual with my time. Join us. We are live. We are live. I'm not gonna rap. All right. Let's see. Short story. All right, let's do a countdown.
Adult children.
Awesome.
He's definitely in the community. He did run for Senate 2 years ago. What?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So
Let's talk about the founding of the Distinguished Gentleman's Club.
Absolutely. So about 8 years ago.
You said you're a mother. So how many children?
I have 5 kids.
Okay.
They started saying that I was their African American, and they got this from our president. They were voted by.
So what were you doing when you were child? The first or the second time?
So I was in and out.
good. Awesome. So that really is a great place to transition.
And who is sitting across from me or beside me is never going to sway that.
Listen, man. One, I'm not gonna cry on this episode.
Yeah.
I made it through all of these episodes. I think I've cried once in Congress. What are the things that you're most proud of accomplishing? As a congressman and as whip.
Real Talk with Rajan.
Yo, we are back. What's going on, world? What's going on? Hello, and welcome back to Real Talk with Rajan, when nothing's off limits. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you are here with me, and I appreciate that. I am your host, Rajan Lewis. Now, here on Real Talk with Rajan, everything's debatable, so on any given week, we can be discussing anything from sports to music to politics. You name it, we'll discuss it. For those who are new to the show, Real Talk with Rajan also has a goal of shining a light on the great people that are all around us right here in the Low Country and beyond. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. This gentleman set records. This man is a groundbreaker. This man is a innovator. This man is changing the game for young people. When you're talking about great young black men, you cannot mention it without mentioning the name of Mr. Jordan Jackson. Thank you, sir, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. After COVID, like this year, I can't complain at all.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. For those who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Jackson. I'm a local entrepreneur here in Charleston, South Carolina. Originally known for becoming the youngest store owner in Northwoods Mall with the opening of Birch and Pen. But I'm originally from Baltimore.
Word. So we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about Birch and Pen. We're going to talk about, everything with that. But I want to start out with your origination. I like to go all the way back, as they say, as the old folks say, way back in the time. I want to
Yeah.
let's talk about Little Jordan. Tell me about Lil Jordan.
Oh gosh. Okay. Little Jordan, back in Baltimore, Little Jordan always just wanted to be free and wanted to be creative.
Mm.
And so I wanted to be an entrepreneur since maybe second grade.
Mm.
I think I told you about this story,
Mm-hmm.
but in second grade, my teacher asked us, "What do we want to be in the future?" And everyone was like, "I want to play football and I want to like rap and everything." And I was like, "I want to be an entrepreneur." And my teacher took that as a moment to kind of like, I guess, try to embarrass me or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
she slammed the it's like how do you say it? Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia.
There you go. Yeah. She slammed that on my desk and she was like, "Find entrepreneur," and I could not find it. So I knew from that moment, I'm like, okay, I'm really gonna go hard with this. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to work for myself and I don't want to go to college.
So you had all those goals early. Like, nah, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it without having to pursue formal education, like secondary education. All right, cool,
Yep.
cool. So what? So why the I don't want to go to college part?
I just always wanted to be free. And at that time I really didn't like school. And I always knew that school wasn't really for me. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't something that like if I had to choose, I would do. But I definitely learned a lot from my teachers. I had
Mhm.
amazing teachers, but I just like to create.
Yeah, yeah. So your journey of entrepreneurship. So you told a teacher that you want to be an entrepreneur. Did you immediately start getting into opportunities to find to like work for yourself?
I think when I told my teacher I wanted to be an entrepreneur, that was just putting a name on what I already was.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was. I used to cut grass, shovel snow, sell. We call them frozen cups in
Hmm.
Baltimore. They call them chili
Chili
bears
bears.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sell candy and just a few. That's just a few
Wow.
that I did. Yeah.
Okay, so did you find that freedom? Is that where that freedom came from? Is like, okay, I'm already doing this. I'm already making money. And I just want to. That's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Is that how it sort of stuck out to you?
I'm not sure. I just like the ability just to create and curate everything that I want to learn.
Hmm.
And so for me, that was like my hands-on version of school while I was in school also. And it's
Oh,
always
okay.
been like that.
Word, word. So you started doing your entrepreneur thing. How soon was it before you decided to start looking into retail as far as like opening a store?
Retail really didn't happen until I moved to South Carolina. So that was
Okay.
maybe I moved here 10 years ago. So maybe my sophomore year, that's when I was like, "Mom, I think I really want to open an online store." And at
Hmm.
this time, I'm so thankful. This subject is like sensitive to me
Yeah.
because I'm so thankful that I have supportive parents.
Yeah.
Because I know it's people out there that do not have supportive parents, and that's like one of like the hardest things for me. The hardest thing for me to like think of. I can't imagine, but I
Mm.
feel for so many people out there. But I was like, "Mom, I really want to start an online store," and she was like, "How are you going to do this or whatever? Like, make me a plan." And at this time, this was probably like the 100th different idea that I brought to her attention, and she's
Hmm.
like, "Oh gosh, here we go again." But this time, she was really like, "Okay, let's make this happen. Make me a plan." And yeah, and so she was like, "How much do you need?" I said, $300.
Mm.
And she was like, "Okay." So she read over my plan and she was like, "Okay, make this happen, but this has to work because I can't tell you how many different times she invested into me." And I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So it was a hustle in the beginning when I started 21 Days. It
Yeah.
was really hard. I only had a few sales, but I was really thinking back to the days when I was on YouNow. YouNow was a broadcasting app, just like this right now.
Uh-huh.
Before Facebook had live, before Instagram had live, and so like if you were on YouNow at that time, most likely it was a lot of people watching you. And so some nights I would be on YouNow and it'd be like 10,000, 20,000 people watching me and my
Wow.
friends. And so I'm like, okay. So they really stuck with that aspect of sending their followers over to like YouTube and everything like that. But I didn't do that. I didn't want to be I thought I wanted to be like an influencer, but I didn't want that commitment.
Mm.
I really want to be known for business, not
Mm.
necessarily just fame. That never really was interesting to me. And so I never really did. And so I reached out to my friends that did, that had like millions of followers or whatever. And I'm like, hey, I just started this online store. Can I send you some merch in exchange for a promo? And they said, yeah. And I would send it, and then it would sell out instantly. So I just stuck with that for maybe a year and a half. And then, yeah, after that, I ended up going back home to Baltimore. And me and my sister, we put together this event. And of course, it was the coldest day of the year. And everything that we invested, we didn't make a return on it, but it was amazing. It was a learning experience. And I feel like everything happens for a reason strategically. So I'm thankful for that moment. But at that time, I was like, I'm kind of sick of like this online store thing. Like I've been interacting with people via email like since sophomore year. It's kind of getting old. Like I want like a real job. I never had a physical job before. I'm like, I really want a real job. So that's when I was like, Mom, I want to open a store. And she was like, okay, okay, okay. And so I'm thinking I have to move to like Atlanta or move back home to Baltimore or somewhere, because I never really saw young entrepreneurs here like really thriving.
Right.
So whenever I went to Atlanta, I would see like these young entrepreneurs like so successful, and a lot of my friends from UNL lived there, and in Baltimore also. And I'm like, it just seemed so unrealistic for me to be successful in Charleston at that time. And so I came back home and we made a plan. We looked at different spaces, and none of them were right. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just gonna have to move. Let me hustle. I started flipping furniture. I was selling furniture on Marketplace. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to save up. So hopefully I can move as soon as I just finished graduating. And so I just stopped. And at that moment, I was like, it felt like it was so close, but it was like so far fetched.
Yeah.
Like I was like in that middle place, and that's crazy. I'm gonna talk about why that's crazy.
No,
I was
cool.
like I was in that middle place, and so I'm like, do I, find a job or something like that? Because at that time, before that, I interned for a realtor in a very high end development here in Charleston. And the one day he allowed me to do tours or whatever. He was like, "Hey, I have this client. I would love for you to do like a mock tour or whatever, take them on a tour." And I took them on a tour, and they was like, yeah, we really like it, and we really want to buy this home. And so, they went in and they talked about it, and they ended up purchasing it. And it was a $700,000 home. And I didn't even get a congratulations, but that's okay. But I was like, I could be a realtor. I'm thinking that in my head, like I can be a realtor or something. And so at that time, it's like, I'm trying to figure out like, where do I start? And as soon as I stopped thinking about, opening a store, it literally came to me. I didn't have to, find the store anymore. It came to me literally.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that story. Before we even talk about the store, I want to get to the store. But you mentioned something that I really want to come back to. It's actually two things you mentioned I want to come back to. One, you mentioned the supportiveness of your parents. When you talk about that, like go in more into detail, because I don't think a lot of young people, I don't think a lot of parents understand how important it is to have that parent to have your back. Can you speak a little bit more about the ways that your parents were able to guide you and support you as you went through your journey of discovery?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, it wasn't always like super easy because, I've always had big dreams. And sometimes big dreams can seem like unrealistic until it like actually happened. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like we really accomplished this. And so I think in the beginning, my mom always embraced like my creativity. I think she never wanted me to feel like, she doubted me or anything. She told me that. She never wanted me to feel like she doubted me. And as far as my dad, I never lived in the same household as my dad, like permanently, but I would always go over there on the weekends when I lived in Baltimore. So it was like part-time. But when I moved to South Carolina, it kind of like really stretched our, not necessarily our relationship, but our communication.
Yeah.
And so like you go from like seeing somebody every weekend to like maybe like being on the phone, and that's a different experience.
Big difference.
And so of course we weren't able to talk about all of my dreams. Like sometimes we just catching up like, hey, how are you? How is school? and everything like that. And so thankfully I did go back home every summer and stayed at my dad's house every summer. So it was like catching back up then and like every holiday.
Yeah.
But for the most part, my parents have always been pretty supportive.
Nice. I love that. So you get the vision for the store, right? So the vision for the store. What's the original idea? I'm gonna do this store. Give it to me. Sell it to me. Go.
This is the first time I'm saying this publicly. Okay, so people always ask me, where did the name Birch and Pen come from? And I always say Pinterest. I was on Pinterest. I saw birchwood and I put pen behind it, right? Which is true, but I didn't tell the other part. So me and my mom actually was going to collab on Birch and Pen at first. So when we were looking at spaces, I'm like, Mom, you should do like an office space, and then I'm going to do interior design. It was going to be like furniture at
Okay.
first, and so that's where Birch and Pen. So the birch part was going to be like my home decor, and then the pen was
Was
going
the
to be like
office.
her office workshop area or whatever.
Ah.
Yeah. So this is the first time I ever said that, but yeah, it kind of like created its own identity over time,
Mhm.
and I just stuck with it.
So the day that the store opened, and because was that the first store that the first like storefront that you had was in the mall?
Yeah, yep,
So I remember the day that opened. I remember like it being like this big to die, like it was nuts, like all over. Everybody was there. It was a major event. What was that day like for you?
it was scary, honestly. So literally up until like the day before, no, up until the day of the grand opening, I would say like 90% of our inventory didn't come in yet.
Oh wow.
And so I'm thinking, we went viral and we had like 10 million shares on Facebook, and all of these people said that they're coming to our grand opening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have like any clothes. So we're going to like give them like a tour around the store and be like, this is like the future home of like
Yeah.
our Birch Squad merch or
Uh-huh.
whatever. Like I'm trying to think of like all the possibilities of how we were going to make this a success.
Mhm.
And then at the last minute, it came in. It wasn't everything, but it came in at the last minute. And so thankfully, I had a supportive team. And I don't think I ever shared how nervous I was at that time. But I remember going into work and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people in the hallway for like the barbershop or whatever.
Mm.
And they were like, oh, that's for you or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. And so we still had the black tarp up because we weren't done with the store. The store was
Yeah.
not ready. It wasn't even close. And so me and my team and my friends, we were all working inside of the store, like getting it ready. And then the time came and we pulled down the tarp, and then it was just like a line of people all throughout the hallway.
Mm.
But mind you, when I went out, I only saw people in front of the barbershop. So pulling down that tarp, it was like shocking. I'm like, oh my gosh, like at that moment, I was just thinking about all the ideas that didn't work, all the like roadblocks that I had with following my dreams or whatever.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful
Yeah.
for those moments because let's say with 21 Ace, if 21 Ace was still like super successful when I first started it before Birch and Pen, I would not open Birch and Pen, right? And then if I didn't have 21 Ace, I wouldn't have like the vendors that I needed for Birch and Pen. And so it's like all the dots aligned that night. And I have so many moments where like the dots all align. I'm like, God really was working from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like leading to like a bigger picture. And I'm just so thankful for that.
I love that. So we didn't even we skipped over the main thing. So the
Oh,
big deal
sorry.
about it was that no, I messed it up. That made you broke history. You made history. Can you talk a little bit about how you made history that day?
Yeah. So, I found out that I was the youngest store owner ever in Northwoods Mall and possibly the Charleston area, but for sure Northwoods Mall. And that was actually the day that I think it was the day that I signed my lease that we found out. And so, my mom, being a business coach, she already had the connections that she had. And so her best friend was like a PR manager. And so like it's so crazy. We already had the team. Everything was already like prepared for us, like
Mm-hmm.
down to like tiny stuff, like um a lady at the church Increase in Faith, actually the mother of the first lady. She created the cash register stand for us and gave it to us for free. I
Oh
didn't know where to
wow.
find that at. It was like things like we got the front of my store wrapped by like a
Mm-hmm.
car wrapping place or whatever, and their documents weren't up to date for like the mall or whatever, and it cost them like tens of thousands of dollars to like update it, but they did it anyway. It was like so many
Wow.
blessings. We went to Target and maybe got like $800 worth of stuff. Everything was
Wow.
on sale. I never been to Target where everything was on sale, and everything ended up being like $250. It was
Wow.
like everything was just working out. So I don't even know if I answered the question.
No, you did. You did. So how long? So how long were you in that space?
Before opening,
No, once you were in there.
oh, 11 months.
11 months. Okay, so you go
Yep.
through 11 months. Um, and what happens from there? From the time it opens, what's going on?
Yeah, so 11 months. So I think like the first month, it was just mostly like people coming in, like we heard about Birch and Pen, we want to support. And then the second month was like people coming from different states. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like we really are a successful company.
Mm-hmm.
It was just crazy to me. And I was able to employ. I'm kind of getting nervous talking about it right now because that whole time period was a blur.
Yeah.
But
Take
I
your
was
time.
able,
There's no rush.
yeah, I was able to employ 10 people over that time, which is crazy to me. And yeah, it was just like we created so many amazing moments. We went on school tours, interacted with thousands of students, spoke at churches. I think your church actually
Mm-hmm.
was one of them afterwards. Um, it was just so much that happened. It's all hitting me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
So we
representative.
get through, no, I'm sorry, I'm skipping. I'm lagging. You good.
Oh, no, oh, okay. Representative Crystal Simmons, she presented me with a House resolution
Mm-hmm.
saying that basically putting in the history books that I made history, which is crazy. I still
Yeah.
can't believe it, but I'm
Yeah.
thankful. It's crazy because before all of this happened, I actually had deja vu of Birch and Pen, like the
Mm.
whole Birch and Pen experience before it even opened, which is crazy.
Wow. Wow. So you're not in that space now, right?
No.
So what happened in terms of it not being there anymore?
Yeah, this is the first time, I mean, other than me posting on my social media talking about it, but around springtime, I actually was like, God, please show me like a sign because it was a lot of violence going on around the mall. And I'm like,
Yeah.
God, please show me like a sign, like, are we supposed to be here or are we supposed to leave? And every time I prayed for a sign, it came. And it wasn't like a regular sign. It was like something
Mhm.
crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so at this time I was like, God, like, what do you want me to do? And then he literally told me to be still and be silent.
Mhm.
And then that's when I was like, okay, I don't want to do like interviews anymore. Like I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to do interviews anymore. I don't want to do like a whole bunch of like public appearances or anything. I just want to like focus or whatever.
Yeah.
And at this time, I started to become like burnt out
Yeah.
because with all of the violence happening or whatever, traffic in the mall started to die down.
Yeah.
Although my store was able to attract over 50,000 people in less
Wow.
than 11 months,
Mhm.
it was still hard towards the end. And then I kept asking for a sign, and it would be like a big storm where like the whole mall would be shut down for like a week. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, like, we just became successful. I mean, well, we were successful from the jump, but I'm
Mhm.
like, this is my dream. It's finally happening. And I'm like, man, I heard God, and I'm like, I don't want to listen though. So let me throw this music festival for my birthday. So I did, and it rained. It rained like
Wow.
cats and dogs, and thankfully, I think maybe like 60 people stayed, but so many people couldn't make it because of
Yeah.
the rain, or they was just stuck outside. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what next? And then my car broke down, and I'm like, oh, of course. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to let go of my staff
Yeah.
because of how slow everything was in the mall. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm working 14-hour days, sometimes more if I want to like design a store, do inventory.
Yeah.
By me and my mom at the end by
Yeah.
ourselves. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is hard. Like, do I really want to do this anymore? And I was praying, I was praying, I was praying. And God was like, leave. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what? And so I'm like thinking in my head, okay. So I'm gonna talk to management and everything about it, and we're gonna leave. And so I was talking to management actually, and the leasing manager at that time, I don't believe that she's there anymore, but the leasing manager at that time, she was like, you know, we understand that everything is slow at the mall, like even like the big box stores or whatever. Like, what can we do to help? And I was like, rent reduction, rent reduction. But and so they agreed on that. And she was like, what do you want or whatever? And I was like, I don't know if we really want to be here anymore because of everything that's
Mm.
happening. Our customers don't feel safe here, and everything that's going on. And she was like, okay, well, are you like sure about that? And I'm like, yeah, like I had a conversation with God about that. And she's like, well, if it's with God, then maybe she'll listen. And so she gave us a rent reduction. And I can't believe I'm talking about this,
No,
but
you
okay.
good. You're
She
doing
gave us
great.
she gave us a rent reduction and sent everything over to management, the management office, I think in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And so we got an invoice. We paid rent, and it was like half price rent for that month. And we paid rent. Well, that was our new leasing agreement. We paid rent, and it was the next month. And then we got an invoice from. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was like glitching. We got an invoice from the management company saying that we paid partial rent or something like that,
Oh
and we was
wow.
like, please check with the leasing manager. This is what we agreed on or whatever. And so we didn't hear anything back from them that time. And so I was talking to them about leaving at the end of my leasing agreement because the old leasing manager told me that I could renew another year, but if I want to cancel beforehand, like let them know in advance or whatever. So that's what I'm doing, letting them know in advance. I let them know in springtime that I was kind of thinking about it, and I let them know for sure. And they really didn't say anything about it except for like, what can we do to make you stay or whatever.
Hmm.
You bring us good business and whatever. And so I forgot what happened. It was a lot that happened at that time. But when I we announced that we were leaving at the end of our leasing term or whatever to our
Hmm.
customers, just letting them know and letting them know that we were going to be, moving or whatever. And so right when we announced that, I got a phone call from my mom saying that the lease was terminated. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I literally just let, all of our customers know, like you can come in and support or whatever. And I literally just spent so much money on inventory that isn't even
Yeah.
here yet. It's not even
Yeah.
close. And so, and at this time, we were going through inventory like super fast normally. And so it took maybe like a month or two for like inventory to get there. So we were like constantly selling out. And so I ordered all this inventory, and they gave us a termination, saying that we had to leave in 3 days. I
Wow.
told my customers before I even got that, I told my customers we're going to be here until the end of the month. When our lease is up or whatever. And so it was kind of like a in your face moment, like we'll show you or
Yeah.
whatever. And that was a crazy feeling, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, it felt like a moment where it was like my dreams were being taken away from me. But in springtime, God already showed me what was next.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think that it was like realistic at that time. It's a constant cycle in my life, and it's like
Uh-huh.
every shift is like very traumatic, and it's crazy, but it always pushes me further, and the people around me further. And so I'm like, you know, so I'm telling my so I did the news interview with Erica Lungsford, and she was the first person to cover the opening of Birch and Pen publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, it's only right to end with her. And next thing you know, once we moved out and everything, my friends came and everything. I didn't really want to talk about it. I got phone calls from so many news reporters like asking me what was happening and
Yeah.
everything. And I'm like, I don't that's not something that I want to attach to my legacy. I mean,
Right.
that was ill on somebody else's terms. Like that was bad on their side. But on our side, we accomplished a lot. We were able to employ people of all ages.
Yeah.
But I majority wanted to give people my age like a chance.
Yeah.
But of course, we didn't discriminate. We allowed people to have pop-ups inside of our store. We collaborated with so many different entrepreneurs who now have their own store because of
Right.
that moment. Like they have their own establishments and they're very successful because of that extra boost that Birch and Penn was all giving us.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that moment, it was like a lot of pressure. Like we have so many supporters. We went on school tour and thousands of kids told me how much like my story inspires them. And they want to be like me or something like that. And me, I'm like, don't be like me, be better than me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that time period was just so hard for me. And then next thing you know, when the store closed, I'm being very candid now because I
Cook.
know that this gonna help somebody.
Cook.
When the store closed, I lost one of my closest friends to suicide,
Mm.
a family member to cancer, another family member to cancer, and we lost so many more people. I think we lost 9 people back to back. Now, mind you, I've been working for a year straight. I didn't get a chance to go home to Baltimore. And so because the store closed, I was finally able to go back home. And I'm like, okay. So I went back home. I stayed for a while. And the next thing you know, my mom called me. And she's like, hey, Jordan, got some news. I'm like, what? And she was like, oh, yeah, I see my aunt saying always looking out for the underdog. That's my favorite thing. She was like, got some news. I'm like, what? She was like, our landlord said that she wants her house back, like at the end of our term or whatever. She wants her house back so she could turn it into like a senior something or whatever, like a senior living or something like that.
Wow.
And I'm like, of course, like all of this stuff is happening back to back, but none of it is connected. It wasn't because of the store. It wasn't because of the car. It wasn't because of the house. It wasn't because of like the deaths or whatever. It was everything happened, but I feel like everything happens for a reason. Not necessarily talking about like the deaths or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but we needed a break. We needed time off. We needed to be in the moment, be with our family, and the store needed to close, unfortunately.
Mm.
And I realized that because if the store was still open during Corona, it would have been so horrible,
Yeah.
like really bad. And
Yeah.
so,
You'd have lost more money.
yep. And so,
Yeah.
because of that, bigger doors have opened for me.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the way you tell your story, not making it a defeated story. Because
Mm-mm.
there's a lot of people that would experience the things, and even in your youth, you have a unique ability to see the God in the situation, and that God does all things well, and God does all things intentionally. God doesn't make mistakes. There's no coincidences in God. God does everything the way God does them for a specific and intentional reason. And I also love the fact that you pointed out that it's because of the things that happened before that didn't work that Birch and Pen was able to work the way that it did. So that's a level of perspective that you don't normally see in people your age. So I want to just pause right there before we even move forward in your story, because you still have so much. You're what, 21, 22?
I'm 21 now. I'll
21.
be
Yeah.
22 in August.
So like you're 21 years old and you have a level of perception and level of perspective that's way beyond your years. That's probably a great indicator of your parents and what they instilled in you, but it's also indicator that you're in tune with the teachings that you're getting. So that's a wonderful thing. I just wanted to give you
Yeah,
kudos for that.
I agree, but also I believe some of the teachings that I got were crazy life experiences that I had.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I survived so much, me and my mom together and separately, survived so much. And it's like, now that I look back, it's like, oh, that was preparing me to be able to handle situations like this, you know,
Yeah.
and to handle it positively. You know, when the after I got after my lease got terminated in the mall, you know, I was going to look at different malls or whatever. Like, you know, I'll just open up a new store or whatever and be back on my grind and everything like that. And I'm like, no, let me really be like in the moment and really think about this and really follow the path that God wants me to follow.
Mm.
Because we easily could have, you know, opened more successful businesses and stuff like that. But it wasn't about that. It was about purpose
Yeah.
and following my destiny, really. And so during that time, you know, when I got the letter saying that my lease was terminated, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to management and thank them for everything that they tried to do. And I went to the office with my mom. This is so crazy to me because I can't believe it. I went to the office with my mom and they had the lights off, like acting like they weren't there. I think they were expecting like us to go to like media and bash like the mall and everything like that. But it was opposite. You know, I went live on Facebook and told everyone, you know, this is what's happening, but I didn't go into like detail, but I wanted to be real with my supporters
Mm-hmm.
and customers because so many people have invested so much into us, and I wanted to just be real but not give so much away at that time because I was trying to figure out how to handle the situation. And so I went to the office and the lights was off. And I was like, what's that shadow? And it was the mall leasing manager. She was at the copier and we rung the doorbell. The door was locked. And she looked up and looked like she saw a ghost. And she came over. She was like, hey, what are you doing here? Whatever. And we were like, is the leasing manager here? And she was like, yeah, I'll go get her. She went around the corner and was whispering, Birch and Pen is here. Make sure that you record or something like that. I'm like,
Oh
this is
wow.
crazy. And so I was like, you know, thank you for everything that you tried to do. I'm sorry that it had to end up in this predicament or whatever, but I want to thank you for everything that you were trying to do or whatever. And I appreciate it so far. And that for me was like really big. I didn't want to, in the time, you know, obviously I was frustrated. I was angry. I was mad.
Yeah.
I had to, you know, really regroup and like handle it like a boss would. A boss is not going to go in there, you know, fussing somebody out or whatever. I'm like, let's really handle this as an adult. You know, it's sad that, you know, I had to be the adult in that situation. But hey.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, the way you dealt with it was wise beyond your years. There's a lot of people, like you said, that would have went in there and caused a big scene, and then there would have been a big news story. Young black teen decides to run up in the offices of Northwoods Mall and all of that, and it didn't have to be that. You walked out of there with your dignity and with your head held high, knowing the man that you are and the man that you showed yourself to be. And I think that's commendable. And I hope that those people in that space realize that they had you wrong in that regard, and that maybe they have all black males wrong in that regard, because that's probably why they thought that. If that was anyway, I will not
No,
do that.
it's fine. It's fine. No, it's fine. I believe that they're no longer there, but it was important for me to tell people to continue to support the mall because we have, you know, we built like a family in that mall with so many of the different tenants and customers. And yes, this is a bad moment that happened in here, but how selfish would it be for me to tell, these millions of people that support us, this is what happened at this mall. Don't support or whatever. That
Yeah.
is so selfish and ignorant. And I hate when stuff like that happens, because it's like people are so angry in the moment that they don't realize that they're destroying the whole village around them.
Mm.
And I can't
Yeah.
do that. I can't take the food out, out of their mouths, my neighbor's mouth. I can't take
Yeah.
money off of their table. They have kids, they work hard. They're there 24 hours a day. I mean, not 24 hours, but always there.
Open or
And
close.
yeah, open to close. And I just wasn't, I'm not doing that.
Well, I love that, man. I love that. I just love it. I love, like, you got really good energy about you. You have very mature energy about you that you don't see, like I said, in a lot of people your age. So again, I want to commend you on that. So let's talk about what's coming now, though, because that's in the past. You learned from it. I want to. What did you learn, and how are you applying it to what's going on now with you?
So I learned a lot. And actually, over that 11 months, I was listening to all of my customers' needs and wants. And I'm like, what can I do with that? And then when I asked God, like, what's next? He revealed to me in a dream what was next. And I don't want to reveal that yet because it's too premature right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been working on that for the last year.
Nice.
And because of COVID, obviously, some things were slowing down. But I was able to educate myself more. And like I said, business for me has always been my hands-on school. And so this year was mostly about like educating myself more about business, more about, where I want to be and figuring out how to get there.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like educating myself, really.
I love that. I love that. So, so do you have a timeline on when you plan on releasing what you want to release?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. I wish I could say, but I'm just not sure yet.
That's cool. Slow cook it, man. Crock pot.
Yeah.
Crock pot, man. You make sure your pot roast is nice and tender before you dig in. So I love that. Slow cook it. Is there anything that you want to promote that you do have going on that you can talk about?
Yeah, I actually just dropped the Birch Squad merch a few hours ago, actually.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
it's our signature collection that we had in the store. And so many of our customers have been messaging me ever since the store closed, like consistently. I have maybe like hundreds, if not thousands of messages from people saying like, we still want to support. How can we support or whatever? And, I always want to evolve and I never want to like go back. So Birch and Pen is not necessarily going to be the same thing that it was in the past. And it's growing. But in this middle stage, I'm like, okay, let's drop a collection, a classic collection, not too much. I want it to represent the times, and I want it to be simple. I want it to feel organic. I chose not to do a photo shoot. We did everything on my cracked up phone, my cracked up iPhone 8. Actually, I just want to be real because this is real talk.
Yes,
And,
it is. Cook.
And my mom, some people call her Mama Keisha, was the videographer on the video that I'll be releasing probably tomorrow.
Nice.
And yeah, so we just, finding new ways to get creative with this time and really just gearing up for the future. And I'm excited about it.
I'm excited about it for you, man. I'm excited about it for you. I'm excited with everything you got going on. I want to ask you another question about your style, because you have a very unique style when it comes to like even the stuff that you put in your store. How do you think of that stuff? Like, where does that come from?
I don't know where that comes from actually, because it's like now, okay, so my style has changed a little bit. I've only been wearing 20%. Okay. I've only been wearing like streetwear really when it comes to like, like the Birch Squad merch or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, I really want to be a boss, so I have to look the part. I have to look like my future. And so I'm like stepping it up a little bit. So I'm like wearing suits and stuff and everything.
Okay.
I can't wait to share. But my style has changed. But I can say that, obviously you're influenced by culture sometimes. So back in the day at Birch and Pen, I say back in the day like that wasn't like a year ago. But but during Birch and Pen times, I would look at different fashion that's like all around the country, but that's not here in Charleston. And thankfully, it's so many different businesses that have opened now that that carry like the trendy wear and everything. But I feel like with age, it's time to mature, and I'm ready.
All right. I love it, man. I love what's coming. If with people who want to follow you, man, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can follow me at Jordan Jackson on all social media platforms.
And what's your website name? What's your website?
It's birchandpen.com.
birchandpen.com. And I'll make sure I put that in the title for you, man. Just
you.
in parting, first of all, I want to thank you so much for a great interview, man. Thank you for being so transparent. I know, like you said, this is your first interview that you've done, since you sort of took your time away to center yourself and reestablish and pivot into where you want to go next, which I'm excited about. What are you got any parting thoughts? Anything you want to share before we close?
Yeah, I actually wanted to thank you for being patient. Ray John I met Ray John this time last year.
Yeah.
And Ray John was like, "Hey, I want to have you on my show or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let's make it happen." And at that time I was like, "Okay, I really just need to like be in the moment and take a break and really focus on my dreams, focus on myself."
Yeah.
Because although I would say I was kind of healed after everything that happened during that time, I really wanted to make sure like I knew the direction I was heading to. I didn't want to do things just to do it. And so thank you for waiting for a year, but it's always been the priority at the top of my list. I've been telling my mom, like, we got to do something so I can get on Ray John's show or whatever. And so here we are.
Wow. Yeah, man. So like I knew a lot was going on. Thank you to Miss Keisha for coming on. And we actually had a really good interview. I enjoyed talking to her and getting to know her. It gave me more insight into, who you are and, the stock that you come from. And the fact that you you come like you just come from good stock and you're a really good guy. Like I root for you, man. And God does all things well. I actually had somebody else scheduled tonight. And then literally right before you messaged me, she messaged me and was like, "Hey, I need to cancel." So when I told you, like, I had somebody scheduled, she literally had just messaged me and said, "Hey, I need to Dr. Crystal Wigfall, who actually won the seat in Charleston County School District."
Oh wow, congratulations to her.
Yeah, she was my guest for tonight. She rescheduled, so we'll have her on soon, but not this week. But yeah, man, thank you so much for coming on. I wish you all the luck in the future, and I know that you're going to do great things. I'm excited. If you are not already following this young man, make sure you follow him. Make sure you're watching him. Make sure you are keeping track of him because the guy is thebomb.com.
Thank you.
Thebomb.com. Even though I think that sounds really dated to say, so I'm not going to say that.
No. My mom still says that. So
yeah. So your mom's really cool is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay. My brother's calling me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My brother keeps calling me. I don't know what's going on.
It's fine.
I'm on. No, my brother's on the go. All right. Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. You have something going on, something you want to promote, come back on, man. I'd love to have you like to do an update. Once you get your website rolling, once you unleash the great things that you got coming, man, come back and let's talk about it. And I'd also love if I do any like panels in terms of like talking to the youth, talking about what's going on with the youth. From a youth perspective, I'd love to, consider you a resource that I can have on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. And with that being said, I am going to close so I can call my brother back.
Okay.
Hello, world. And thank y'all so much for watching this week. I really appreciate Mr. Jordan Jackson for coming on this episode 137 of the Local Celebrity Spotlight. Mr. Jordan Jackson, Birch and Pen. Make sure you go to birchandpen.com and check out what he's got cooking. Get that Birch Squad merch. I like Birch Squad merch. I'm gonna go order me some stuff. So
dope.
Yeah, already, man. I love wearing people. I love wearing local brands, man. I just really do. I think we don't do enough of that when it comes to supporting one another. So I want to make sure I do that for you. But
thank you.
Thank you. So make sure you guys watch next week. Next week, my guest is Mr. Good Vibes. Yo, dude is from Canada. I got my first guest from another country coming on the show next week. Canada is in the building. Mr. Good Vibes, motivational speaker. He's actually an international motivational speaker. I met him on Clubhouse, and we just had a really good rapport, and he decided to come on the show. So I'm excited about meeting with him. meeting him next week here on the show and exposing him to you guys. If you're doing something great in the community that you would like a light shined on, please go to my website, www.realtalkwithrajan. That's www.realtalkwithrajan.com, and put in your application so we can get you scheduled to come on the show. Follow me on social media. Anywhere you find social media, Real Talk Rajan, you can find me. And always remember that God is everything. Without him, we are nothing. So never forget where help comes from. And if a man doesn't stand for something, he's bound to fall for anything. Now that's real talk. I will see y'all next Wednesday. Peace.